just want to take a reading from Mark chapter 10, verse 46. Now there came to Jericho, as he went out of Jericho with his disciples, and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, Be of good cheer, rise, he is calling you. And throwing aside his garments, he arose and came to Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. Then Jesus said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. Now news about Jesus had been spreading all over Israel. He was famous for the very fact that he was healing people. Tremendous miracles were taking place, and they'd never seen anything like it before. They'd heard about it through the prophets, Elijah, Elisha, and various prophets who performed miracles in times past. But a new miracle worker appeared on the scene, and not only was he operating in signs, wonders, and miracles, raising the dead, healing the sick, and all the rest, he was also speaking words of wisdom. And he had an understanding and insight of the Jewish scriptures that astounded them all. Even the religious leaders, the Pharisees, the scribes, the lawyers, were amazed when they asked him questions. He astounded them by his answer, and even floored them many times when they tried to trick him. He always had the answers. And often when I'm reading the Bible, I'm blown away by it. Still, when I read how Jesus responded to people, how he paused and then came up with some incredible answer and just floored them every time. And they were astounded, and they kept coming back. And in the end, it said they gave up. They couldn't ask him any more questions because they were making a fool of themselves. And so he was famous because he was like a magnet. And many were drawn to him. Multitudes were following him because they were being healed, they were being delivered of demons, they were being saved, they had opened their hearts to him. But all these people that were following Jesus, the majority of them, they didn't understand that he was the Son of God, but they understood one thing, that he had something that many thought that God had sent him, and he was a great prophet and so on. So they were drawn to him, and they had a faith in him. They didn't have a faith that he was the Son of God, but they had a faith in him as a person, and that was enough to cause Jesus to respond to the faith in them, to heal them. And this is what happened that day. And I just want to slip this in here while I'm speaking. All the way through the Bible, the Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, when I'm reading the Gospels about Jesus Christ, the way he walked around doing good and healing all those who were oppressed by the devil, he didn't turn anybody away. And they only went away when they walked away themselves because they wouldn't completely surrender everything to him, like the rich man and so on. But when they were genuine and they were sincere and they were going to give their all, they wanted all of him, he couldn't help but respond to help them. And we see many miracles happening because of that. It says in Hebrews 11 verse 6, But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Now, Bartimaeus, it says here in verse 46, Now they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples, and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. He sat by the road begging. And it was something he did regularly to survive. But then the crowd came past with Jesus in the middle, and there was a lot of commotion and crowd following him. But he must have screamed at the top of his voice. He heard that it was Jesus, the miracle, and he knew, he had faith in his heart to believe that Jesus would heal him if Jesus would just help him. So he cried at the top of his voice and he said this. And And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy. And it says he cried out. So his voice, the voice of faith, cut through the crowd and it touched Jesus. And Jesus feels faith. He responds to faith. And they were all saying to Bartimaeus, the people that were following him, then many warned him to be quiet. But he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy. He wouldn't be silenced. He was desperate. And it said that Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, Be of good cheer, rise, he is calling you. And throwing aside his garment, he arose and came to Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. He knew Jesus would heal him. He knew it. He had faith. Do you think Jesus would say, oh no, not today, or you haven't got enough faith? The very fact that he cried and then he came to him and he was standing in front of Jesus was enough. And it was the end result was he was completely healed, because it says here, then Jesus said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. Sometimes we think the devil will throw all kinds of things into our minds, saying, oh, God won't help you, God's not listening to you, and they give 1,000 reasons why God won't help you and everything else. We have to get back to the Bible when our head's up in the air and we're listening to the enemy. Get back to the Bible. Read the Gospels. Is there any place in those Gospels where Jesus turned people away when they were genuine and they were saying, even the faintest cry, if it's genuine, he could not turn them away? And they were all healed, delivered, saved, and delivered from demons and incurable diseases healed, and all kinds of needs met, because he can't turn that heart cry away, whether it's faint or whether it's loud like Bartimaeus. Be encouraged today. Keep your faith in Jesus. Don't listen to the lies of the devil. He's trying to destroy your faith. Put your faith in Jesus. Keep believing. He's a loving God and he's helping you because you belong to him. If you belong to Jesus today, if you don't know Jesus today, repent of your sin, surrender your life to him, call upon his name, and first thing you need is to be saved from your sin, and then follow him, and then you can talk to him daily. And I guarantee when you talk to him, he'll meet your needs. Thank you for listening today.